Now an author from our region has written a book about the impact of punk on society. Matthew Hudson's been to meet some of those caught up in the movement and ask whether punk has left a lasting legacy.
Charlie Harper is still teenage at heart. For more than 40 years, he's trodden the boards as lead singer of the UK Subs, playing in our region many hundreds of times. Still filling venues like Cambridge's Portland Arms just before Christmas. For Charlie, punk is a way of life.
Pop music is like, it's tailor-made and suited for the masses, whereas punk rock is like a wild animal. It's like, it's unpredictable, it's uncensored. You know, it's got that sense of danger and unpredictability. So it's much, much more exciting than, you know, that chart music.
Chris Free was another of the original punks. Now a successful online businessman, he was guitarist for the Users in Cambridge. A favourite of DJ John Peel, the Users formed at the same time as the Pistols and the Clash without even knowing of their existence.
I remember we played the Great Northern and the pub landlord, and it got packed, but the pub landlord, he pulled the plugs on us after about 3 or 4 numbers, because we had this thing where we were going to go in and do this kind of Stooges kind of racket, and I don't know what they were used to, but they turned all the power off.
For many young people, punk was and is about more than music. Teen rebellion was nothing new, but punk helped young people to create as well as destroy, encouraging a love of writing, publishing and designing in more than a few. Street politics became an integral part of the music, leading many to join Rock Against Racism, the Anti-Nazi League, CND and other causes. Norwich-based academic Matt Worley's book, No Future, Punk, Politics and British Youth Culture, has recently been published by the Cambridge University Press.
Politics with a small p is really important with punk, that you could do it yourself, that breaking down the kind of deference within society that was still kind of still hanging over despite what the 60s had done, that the tired ideologies of the Labour Party at the time and the Conservative Party at the time, who are both about to go through their own upheavals.
No one was more political than anarchist punk's Crass. Singer Steve Ignorant is now a volunteer lifeboatman in Norfolk. He also still writes and performs. But back in the day, the band fought vicious street battles with far-right groups who tried to break up their shows. They also promoted causes like veganism and animal rights long before they became mainstream.
To get people to question, even down to the most basic relationship with each other.
Quite often we'd do our gigs, you know, and we'd always give out leaflets, you know, what to do if you get arrested, what are your rights, how to bake bread, you know, all this kind of thing. But people would come along with their own leaflets that they'd printed. Is it okay if we give these out? Yeah, if it's not racist or anything like that, yeah, help yourself, you know, so this real network grew up.
Luton's finest, UK Decay, shared stages with Crass. Still together, Anglia News caught up with them in the studio in 2014. Guitarist Steve Spong still lives in Luton and continues to support social projects and causes. But he remembers that while sticking up 2 fingers to authority was fun, growing up as a punk in a working-class town wasn't always easy.
In order to be a punk, we had to fight our corner. You know, and it's a horrible thing to have to say, but we were being, you know, some of the older people, and on one hand, all the older musicians were, right, it's punk, it's not proper music, and then all the ordinary people in town were punk rockers, easy targets.
Some punks are still punks. Others took their talent and creativity elsewhere. One invented The Simpsons, bet you didn't know that. But is punk's attitude still relevant today? We'll leave the last word to Charlie and the boys.
hear what they're saying there. Well, Matt is with us now, as you can see. And Matt, you know, on behalf of me and a lot of people in my generation, thank you very much for the education, because I learnt a lot from that. And it's clearly a labour of love. Tell me there's a picture of Matt Hudson in a similar guise somewhere.
Locked well and truly in a safe. Yes, it was a labour of love. And not just for me. I mean, I expected people I approached for interviews to say, you know, it was a long time ago, my life has moved on. But nobody did. And it started to occur to me that for some people from my generation, punk, and not just the music, but the kind of the ethos and the aesthetic, if you like, was something that had stayed with them and had shaped them throughout their lives.
So what is its legacy then, beyond the music, do you think?
Well, I think you have to put it in the context of its time. Life was very different then. For instance, young people were not particularly encouraged to think outside the box. You know, you can't start a band, you don't know how to play, you can't publish a fanzine, you don't know anything about publishing. And yet some people within my generation said to authority, well, if you want to help us to do this, then we're just going to do it ourselves anyway. And politically, I think it taught young people that it could be about more than just putting a cross in a box every 4 years. You could get involved in causes, try to make a difference actively, almost on the street. And this was at a time when, you know, black and Asian people were ridiculed on primetime television by comedians, when gay people were kind of ridiculed and portrayed in a very stereotypical way. And I think punk was one of the factors that addressed some of those issues. You heard the young Steve Ignorant there saying, question everything. And if there's a word that sums up the punk ethos, it's why. And I think why is a question that we ask a great deal more today than we did 40 years ago. But equally, you saw the UK subs there. Their song Warhead was originally about the conflict in Afghanistan involving the Russians, but it equally reflects what's happening between North Korea and the United States, showing that some of punk's causes are still very relevant.
Got to be quick, but tell us about tomorrow night. Can't wait.
Tomorrow night we're looking at Cambridge Corn Exchange on West Runton Pavilion, a place with an amazing story to tell.
Brilliant, Matt.
Great.
Thanks very much. See you then.
Well, your news hour continues at 6:30. Here's a look at what's coming up with Mary.